Welcome not to the usual home of Dan Really Likes Wine, the home of my dear mother who lives in Northern Ireland, where she and her husband are single-handedly responsible for 14% of Northern Ireland's wine consumption, and they always have a really nice collection. So as well as coming to see them just to see them, which I always love, I always like seeing what they've got in their cellar because they generally have some quite interesting stuff, usually purloined in manners not entirely legal, but they have it nonetheless, and it gives me the opportunity to find some wine that I might not normally come across in South Africa. And that's certainly the case with a couple of bottles I have here that I thought I'd pop on camera just for interest's sake. The first of these I'm almost certain you will never have seen. It is a Rapsani Terra Petra from Greece. Now you'll know from various episodes or from my wine column on Food 24 that I've got a great fondness for Greek wine. My wife is Greek, I have a Greek family, and so tasting Greek wine is something I love to do. Greek wine I think is very underrated, but Greek wine you tend to find is focused on white. It's certainly the wine that I drink a lot of, the Moraitis winery in Paros, one of my favourites, some lovely whites coming out of Santorini, but they also do make some good red. Outside of flying though and travelling on Aegean Airlines, I haven't drunk a huge amount of Greek red. So finding what appears to be a very good Greek red is a welcome change from all of the Greek white. And I say it appears to be because I've read up a little on this online. It's got some very, very good reviews. The grape is the Zino Mavro, a Greek that's sort of sour black, I think, for want of a better term. So you're expecting a very dry red wine. It's not an inexpensive wine, that's £20. Translate that into rand, that's about 270,000 rand a bottle. So it's not a cheap bottle of wine, so you'd expect it to be fairly good. It's got a colour, if you can see that's very light. You're kind of looking at your more Syrah Grenache type of colour, that almost pinkish colour to it. And a very interesting nose. It's got a sort of slightly heady, slightly sour cherry nose to it. And so I'm quite interested to see what this actually tastes like. A £20 bottle of red wine from Greece. It's certainly more money than you normally expect to pay for wine from there. How does it taste? I do like that. It is a 2016, so to all intents and purposes, we've just started February. It's not much older than 2 years old, and it is nice. That sour cherry translates into a slight sourness on the palate. It is quite light. It's certainly dry. It's pleasant. I'm not sure it's a £20 bottle of wine, but I also know that it's fairly early days in terms of this particular winemaker, who's called Apostolos, one of my favourite Greek names. So I'd love to see where this goes. I do enjoy it. Might not pay 20 quid for it now, but certainly wine that's got an interesting future to it. Just as Greek wine, I think, is going to be one of those winemaking areas that really starts to get a lot more attention over the next few years. Now, an area that's already got plenty of attention from myself, amongst others, is probably my favourite winemaking area outside of South Africa to visit, and that is Mendoza. I love Argentina. My Greek wife and I visited Argentina for our first trip together when she was still young and misguided and hopelessly in love, and we spent a lot of time eating large steaks and drinking red wine. And when you are in Argentina, malbec is what you drink a lot of. It's not all they make. I've had a Semillon from Mendel. My good friend Philip, who drinks 7 bottles of white wine a day, is a fan of their Semillon. You might not expect to get it from Argentina. Drank very pleasantly, but this is the stuff that they really write the book on, the malbec. They took the grape out of France, they have perfected it, and anything out of the Mendoza area in this kind of upper level generally I find is exceptional. So it's a 2015, this is the northern area of Mendoza, and like a lot of the top malbecs, it's a blend of malbecs. They've taken one of their top vineyards, they've taken wine from a couple of others, I think it's 3 vineyards in total, and they've melded together those 3 malbecs to produce what they feel is the pick of their malbec options. Almost a sort of salty caramel nose. It's quite savoury, but I think it's going to lead to something just a little fruitier and sweeter. And indeed it does. Not sweetness in terms of old school rosé, but just that little bit of ripe fruit on the back of a really deep, big shouldered red wine. That is a very, very nice malbec, and I'm particular about my malbec because I know just how well they can make it, and I think this is a lovely example. It's also not that cheap. I think you're looking at north of £16 a bottle, so if I throw away the facetious exchange rate, £16, you're probably looking at about 300 rand a bottle. Again, as I think South Africa makes the best value wine in the world, could probably get you a bottle of similar quality for less money in South Africa. But given this has been imported and that's not an inexpensive process, when you're in the UK, I think for £16, you're getting pretty good value. You're also getting a lovely show of Argentina, and when, as is the case now, it is about -4 degrees outside and absolutely horrid, sitting inside with a couple of glasses of good red wine is certainly a preferable alternative to being out there. So the Greek red I do like. The Malbec I think just nudges it, slightly cheaper, slightly more rounded wine, but they're both fun examples. And what they both show is that right around the world there's so much fun to be found in drinking wine and exploring wine, whether you're in Greece, whether you're in Argentina, or whether you're sitting in Hollywood in Northern Ireland fighting off the cold with some great wine. Cheers.